So I'd just like to welcome you all to this week's Inclusive Entrepreneur Online Friday briefing. It's lovely to see everybody. So I'm just going to introduce myself. So I'm Jacqueline Winstanley. I'm the founder and CEO of Universal Inclusion and the Inclusive Entrepreneur. Right, so what I wanted to do before we do introductions is I wanted to really mark this, because actually we had in our network 5 nominations for the National Diversity Awards, and that's quite something. And I think on that point, before I talk about the other bits of it, I'd like to say, first of all, congratulations to Noreen, because Noreen actually got through and was shortlisted and will be going to the awards in February, which is really exciting. But for us to get 5 people going forward is actually a really good reflection of what everybody's doing. And it kind of proves that we're on the right track, which is really nice. So congratulations to everybody who was nominated, and again an extra one to Noreen for actually getting through. So well done, everybody. Now we can do the introductory slides. So that's what we're going to show each time, and as new people come on board, we'll add them to it. It's less time consuming, but also it means that the people that sometimes, for instance, Steve isn't very well today. So at every session, anybody who wanted to watch it on YouTube would see everybody and showcased in a really positive way. So before we start, what I'd like to do is actually, if we have any new people with us today, if they could actually introduce themselves. So I think we've just got one new person with us today. Is that Mercy? Oh, possibly Prasant as well.
Yeah. Hello, Jacqueline.
Hi.
I just wanted to say hello. Thank you so much for letting us introduce ourselves. My name is Merce from Think Beyond, and we have a family-run business providing marketing consultancy for companies to help them sell more. So thank you.
That's wonderful, thank you. Okay, so just want to go through what we'll be talking about today, and I'll try this bit again. The Dum Spiro Spero, while I breathe, I hope, is what we're all thinking about at the moment, with in the middle of the pandemic, and we are doing the best that we can, being innovative, resilient, and adapting. We're going to look at some generic business advice, some disability-related support, our health and well-being section. We're going to showcase an inclusive entrepreneur, the wonderful Abba, and we'll also give you an update on the virtual expo and have time for question and answers later. So in terms of generic business advice, obviously government is still putting things in place, and it's really pleasing to see that every step they take to try to bring us out of the lockdown, they are considering and putting things in place. How that will go, it's debatable each time. So things I want to just pick out on this Friday is the Self-Employment Income Support Scheme, the second stage of it. The businesses that are adversely affected beyond 14th of July will be able to claim the second and final grant from the 17th of August. You have to show that you have been affected on or beyond the 14th of July. The business loans deadline is the 4th of November. And obviously the cash grants are still available through the local authorities, but as we know, these are not easy for us to get. The furlough is still in place, and the £1,000 bonus for bringing your employees back to work is still in place. The 2 billion kickstart scheme to create more jobs for young people is obviously out there, and that's great to see. What we have commented on this is that it would have been nice to have seen something in this for young entrepreneurs. The latter part of this is obviously bringing in from this weekend compulsory to wear masks in retail, takeaways and enclosed spaces. And this is, I think we're just going to have a little bit of a discussion on this. Sharon commented quite rightly in terms of people who are in any way unable to wear the masks, but the government's given very clear guidance. And I've noticed today there's a lot of stuff out on social media and in shops that I've been in today, which is rather nice, reminding people that they are to wear them, but also actually saying on the tannoy that there are people who may have complex health conditions that means they are not able to wear them, and for people to be patient and not to address anybody directly who isn't wearing a mask. So that's really interesting to see, because there will be people that it's not going to be possible for them to do it. Personally, I don't have a problem with wearing a mask. I think it's respectful for me to other people more than anything. It's interesting to hear a lot of the shops that I've been in that it's not going to be reinforced. If somebody arrives without a mask, it looks like nobody's going to be saying you can't come in if you haven't got a mask. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that works. However, there we are, and we are all going to be masked up. Public transport, retail. It's interesting if you go into a cafe and you're taking waves to put your mask on. If you're going into a cafe to sit down, you're not being asked to wear your mask. So it's again, I guess they're just trying to work through this best way they can and see how things go, but it is confusing for people. So in terms of disability related support, the issues, we're fully aware of them. If you remember from last week, what we said was we wouldn't do as much on this slide going forward. We would actually update more on this on the APPG-IE slide. So for us, obviously, the common thread through this is access to work and the difficulties we have with access to work. What I would like to just say at this point is I had for information, a response from the Secretary of State in respect of the DWP in response to a question asked by Dr. Lisa Cameron in Parliament around, in COVID planning, was it worth looking at a specific section or pathway for work for people with disabilities? And what's come back to that, which has come in today, is very much that government thinks there's sufficient. Government thinks there's sufficient in terms of the Kickstart scheme and the Access to Work Award. My response to that has been, we know this is why we're doing what we're doing. So it's now up to us through the APPG to show government how innovative this sector is, how important this sector is, and how it's a real opportunity, an alternative to mainstream employment. Because sadly, that response is basically saying this is about workplace, not entrepreneurship. So, you know, am I a little disappointed? Yes, of course I am. However, I think, as I said last week, through the APPG, that's where we're going to showcase, that's where we're going to make changes, and that's what we'll do. So I'm just going to go through the recommendations that we make to government, and particularly the DWP, the Access to Work, reiterating this. I know we're doing it every week, but we're going to keep doing it. So to suspend the annual cap, to fast track any new claims, suspend the annual turnover requirement, to accept digital submission of payment requests, allow for longer access to the mental health strand of the award, fast track for ergonomic working from home, that the award period be extended for 2 years without review, and that there's a fast track for any additionality claim relating to support workers who are self-isolating or on 12-week lockdown, or as we now know, that are on lockdown relating to what they might now call hotspots, coming into contact with somebody who's tested positive, or when, as we're going to look at in a little while, they take a response such as they've done in Leicester and may do with Blackburn with Darwin. The government recognises and considers the way disabled entrepreneurs particularly manage complex health conditions alongside entrepreneurship, and consider additional measures of support which do not require us to give up our access to work or to access it. For men, the self-employed income support scheme to recognise the particular needs of the disabled entrepreneur. And at the end, we might lose this off the slide now, but the creation of an APPG dedicated solely to inclusive entrepreneurship, which, as you know, had its inaugural meeting quite recently. Okay, we're going to quickly look at the events, and please don't forget, if you have any events you want us to share, do send them to us. So our virtual expo, 21st of August 2020, very exciting discussion about that. Very pleased with Noreen's input on this. I think it's going to be really fantastic. We did have the first meeting of the APPG for Inclusive Entrepreneurship on the, we did have the first one recently, but just to let you all know, the one that you will be able to access via Zoom, even if we're going to be back in Parliament, is on the 15th of September. And I think we've scheduled that for 1 o'clock, but we'll confirm that with you. So from now on, the meetings going forward, you will be able to log in, even if Parliament becomes fully sitting again without the virtual element of it that it's taking forward, because it's been so successful, particularly for people who do have protected characteristics. It's been a real inclusive way of actually taking the APPG forward. So that's great news. The RSA podcasts, as you are aware, will be completed by September, and I'm really looking forward to seeing those. Okay, so we're now going to go on to talk a little bit about the APPG IE. So as most of you know, we now are in a really fortunate position to have Dr. Lisa Cameron chairing the APPG that we are taking forward. And please don't forget, we are taking that forward. Universal Inclusion is the registered secretariat. We are doing that with the support from Pink Shoe Club. And Helen has been tremendously supportive of this and will continue to be so. It will be vice-chaired. Our official vice-chair is the Right Honourable Baroness Tanny Gray-Thompson, which is fantastic. That's absolutely such a coup for us to be doing that, to have her as part of this. We've been joined in terms of vice-chairs, the Right Honourable Baroness Udin and the Right Honourable Earl of Errol, and Craig Tracy MP. We are still waiting confirmation from 2 further MPs. What we have seen since that meeting is that the number of people who are interested in this is phenomenal. So we have already had interest from King's College and FSB. So I'm really excited about this going forward. So what I'm going to take you through at the moment is, so okay, we've had the meeting and how far have we got? We now have meetings scheduled for 2 years going forward. We'll be able to send out the first year's dates from September. We won't be able to give you the second year's dates, but we pretty much know what the schedule will be and what we're going to be discussing. The programme of works has been accepted, and what we will be doing is actually going through in a little minute the kind of things that we're concentrating on and what we'd like to do. Once we get a part of what I'm going to discuss with you up and running, we'll actually put the 2-year work programme up online so people can have a look at it. So we now have a Twitter account. So it is the APPG, and then I think you call that an underscore IE. So that's now up and running. One of the first things that we will be doing at the September event is launching the inquiry into inclusive entrepreneurship. That's going to be a very wide-ranging inquiry into, as we've been calling for, you know, what is this sector? Who's in this sector? What is being undertaken? How are people being supported if they are? What support is going to be needed to make this successful going forward? What works, what doesn't work? And this will be an opportunity for people to feed in. So quite soon we'll be sending out a series of dates, etc., for people to almost like sign into to present evidence to that inquiry. And as soon as we know more on that, you know, we'll put that through the entrepreneur page and obviously on the Friday briefings. what's also really exciting is that we're going to, through the chair, be writing to the Prime Minister to explain what the purpose of the APPG is. And that will then filter down from the Prime Minister to all the Secretaries of State, MPs, etc. So to both houses in terms of what it is we're trying to achieve. And that will actually really, almost like, this is a space that we've been trying to access for so long in its own right. So it sends a message as well to other people who may perhaps think, oh, this is great, let's look at this. This is wonderful, we could bring this into it. So this will actually put very firmly on the political agenda what this APPG is about. And in addition to that, Dr. Cameron has also invited us to join her in a publication in one of the parliamentary news publications, again, explaining what the APPG is all about and showcasing the work that's been done to date and yourselves, which is really exciting. And I hope that like me, you are excited by this, because I think everybody's worked so hard to get to this point, and it is quite something that we're actually at this stage, and we've got to this stage so quickly during lockdown. Okay, anybody got any quick questions on that? Lady Sharon?
Yeah, I'm just, how are you going to, with these other bodies coming in, how are you going to control, I asked you this before, but I'll ask it on here as well so everybody knows. How are you going to control what it's about and keep our message rather than other people's messages trying to jump in?
I think that we're very lucky that we have a chair who has also had a long-term interest in this specific issue, who recognises that it does need to stand alone.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right. Anyone else? Right, okay, so if nobody's got any more questions on that, we'll move forward. Right, so what I want to reinforce, and this will give you the kind of idea of what we are going to be taking forward in the work programme. So it's about raising awareness of the concept, the opportunities for innovation and increasing inclusive economic growth, to increase the understanding of government and policymakers and the business sector, the ways in which people have protected characteristics create enterprise, the removal of barriers to enterprise for people with protected characteristics, and to increase sector-specific business support and academic research in this area. And it's great that we've got King's College on board with this, and they have offered the support in the inquiry and any academic research that we take forward. To run a programme of events to further inclusive entrepreneurship here and internationally, to increase access to finance, health and wellbeing support, to host events with schools, universities and emerging entrepreneurs. And this last bit is really exciting, because when you do get the programme of works, you'll see that from now on, every November, we will have an awards ceremony and an expo, actually within Westminster, which I think is really incredible. And for those of us who just took part in an awards ceremony that had over 60,000 nominations, I think for us to actually be able to say
64.
Sorry, 64. For us to say that for this sector, we will going forward have an accelerator programme with mentors, role models and an award ceremony within Westminster is quite an achievement. And I'm really excited about that for everybody. And finally, to enhance the digital platform. I wanted us to think this week, and this is purely and simply because this is actually the constituent that I am in, the constituency that I am in. And for people across the country who are hearing about places that are on the verge of being put down into lockdown or are having additional measures put in place, I thought you might find it a little bit interesting on how that happens and the kind of communication that the individual towns and cities are putting out for the constituents. So we're going to play this now, and then if there are any questions after it.
Hi, my name's Dominic Harrison. I'm the Director of Public Health and Wellbeing in Blackburn with Darwin. This is a short video just to update you on our COVID-19 situation in Blackburn with Darwen and to tell you exactly what we're going to do about it. So firstly, we seem to have a rising tide event in the borough of COVID-19 infection spread. We have a rate of about 40 per 100,000 of the population, and a 6 to 7% positivity rate. The positivity rate is the percentage of those who test for COVID who are confirmed positive. And as that rises, we would become increasingly concerned. And both those two indicators together tell us that we need to develop a very specific action plan. We know from our analysis of postcode data that the virus spread within Blackburn with Darwen is not due to a single large outbreak, as in many other areas, but is caused by household transmission, which is clustering significantly in the BAME area. But those are not the only cases across the borough. So what we think is happening is one person is being infected, they're possibly asymptomatic, possibly younger. They're bringing back that virus into that household without knowing possibly that they're infected. And in a short period of time, 4 or 5 members in the household are also infected. And our rising rates are driven by a number of those events, particularly in smaller terraced houses with larger South Asian families. Now, it's important to stress that that pattern of spread has changed over time. It just happens to be the South Asian communities at the moment. But in the first phase of the pandemic, it was wealthy travellers who were taking out-of-season holidays and returning from France, Italy and Spain, who also often were asymptomatically infected, but then infected the rest of their families. The second phase of the pandemic was largely a broader community spread event, but with a focus on hospital spread and care home outbreaks. This third phase seems to be affecting, in Blackburn with Darwen at least, South Asian communities. But the next phase, which may well peak around October, when people have returned from foreign holidays, have spent more time in pubs and restaurants, and the children have gone back to school, may well look very different. So it's really important that we don't blame or point fingers at any one group who are currently infected, because that will change over time. What we're going to do about it is that we have a COVID-19 prevention zone plan that is up on the council's website. That will increase the amount of prevention work we're doing. We've instituted 5 additional measures for a month, and those are that we want 2 households who meet to only include the first household plus 2 members from the other household. We want people to wear cloth face masks or face coverings for a month in all enclosed public spaces. We're going to increase the inspection, particularly in smaller shops, to ensure that they're COVID safe as much as possible. We want to ask people not to shake hands or hug, because we think that's a significant transmission mode within the borough, and we want to encourage elbow bumping instead. And the 5th measure is that we want to increase testing, asymptomatic testing and case finding for people that may want to test, may suspect that they are infected and may be showing no symptoms. We want to find new cases so that those cases can be identified, they will self-isolate, and we can shut down the transmission. Those measures will be incredibly important. We're going to do that for 2 weeks, ending on the 27th of July. So the general prevention measures and the 5 additional measures. If at that point the numbers are not reversing, we're not seeing a decline in the continued community transmission, we're going to have to go through each of the lockdown lifting measures one by one, or perhaps in groups, and institute a reverse of the lockdown. But we will do this bit by bit in a way that's targeted and proportional. We will not go to a full lockdown, as was the case in Leicester. The success of our strategy depends on us all working together to do this. We are promoting this and developing it jointly with the community, particularly with the BAME community, who are at the moment are most at risk. And we're getting great cooperation and collaboration. And many of the things that we've defined as our intervention strategies to make a difference have been developed with the BAME community. And I want to stress that community has been really happy for us to put all the data we have in the public domain, identify the risks, and to work with us and within their own communities to drive down those risks on everyone's behalf. And that's brilliant. And I really want to say thank you to all BAME communities in Blackburn with Darwin. I particularly don't want any finger pointing or blaming, because different groups will be at risk in different periods of this pandemic. And one of the certain ways to make us likely to have continued transmission is if we create any stigma or blame or finger pointing for anyone who is confirmed positive or going for a test, because we need collaboration.
I thought that was quite a sensible response to this. And I was also quite surprised that it didn't just go to full down lockdown straight away. So it's quite interesting to be within that constituency and be a little bit reassured, really, that we're not going to go into a full lockdown unless things do go significantly worse. That being said, that the village where I live was visited by the police, and the police did go into local shops and reinforce that people had to wear masks. So it's you know, I think they're taking it very seriously, as they rightly should, but not being, as I think if we'd have gone into full-on lockdown straight away, that would have been really scary, I think. And it just makes you feel in terms of sort of people's mental health as well, you know, having just come out of a lockdown to be put back in it again, it is very, very concerning for people. So I'm hoping you found that interesting from the point of view of how I'm guessing the government is asking different places across the country to respond to it. Sharon, you want to?
Yeah, that it kind of worries me, because he was more focusing on there about not blaming any one lot of community, which personally I'm not, but those communities travel to Bolton, they travel to Chorley and what have you, and what I'm worried about is I understand where you're coming from, I understand where he's coming from, but is it not still possible that the spread's still going to carry on? Whereas Leicester did a full lockdown and cleared it up, he's taking it bit by bit, and it's still possible that it might still spread.
Yeah, exactly, and may well go to full lockdown. And I think, you know, who knows which approach is going to be right?
Yeah.
Who knows which approach is going to be right? Yeah, very, very, very difficult. Very difficult.
It is.
So, but I think it, you know, interesting to see how they're navigating it. Interesting to see how they're responding, and possibly rightly, particularly the area that we do live in, just that they are reinforcing, not kind of trying to stigmatise or respond negatively to any particular group.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're now going to move over to Abba, who we've been waiting to hear all about the wonderful things that she does. So I'm now going to, obviously you have the slide here, but I'm now going to hand over to Abba to tell us all about the wonderful work that she does. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Firstly, apologies. Technology is not my forte, and I've been fighting with it. Actually, I'm in a different setting today, so I just assumed it would work on time. So anyway, I'm still here, and that's the point. So yes, good afternoon. My name is Abba Graham, and I work Greater Manchester wide, but also in my locality here in Stockport. And mainly the ethos of my work is really advocating for equality at different levels, particularly with the protected characteristics. I work for a disability organisation also, which then places more emphasis around issues around reasonable adjustment, access, and so forth and so on. In what we tend to do here is to actually work in a co-productive way, whereby we get representatives from different protected characteristics to collectively come together to be able to look at issues that or concerns it could be that is related to themselves and or a community-wide issue, and look at how we can find a resolve. If there is a resolve, and if there's not a resolve, what is it that we can do to ensure that people feel that their voices are heard and that they are feeling connected and they feel like they can then live and make a fruitful and positive decision and lifestyle in whichever way they choose. So that network is called Nexus. The whole ethos of Nexus has continued to progress in the way that Greater Manchester Health and Social Care Partnership, Greater Manchester Centre of Voluntary Organisation, local organisation here now sees Nexus as advocate for the work of equality. And it's been a long time coming, but it's essentially important that those people who feel marginalised or disadvantaged just because of the systems that and the structures in place that doesn't actually have a wider view mirror, is to give them the voice, to enable them, to empower them to be able to speak for themselves, and for those that can't speak for themselves, for us to advocate on their behalf to make sure that things are done and things are changed. Now, that's a difficult task. We all know that. However, my work is to train organizations, communities, and actually young people, because I think there's a lot of prevention work that could be done for the next generation to come. And also there's not only prevention, because some people, young people, struggle with the same issues that older people do too. So it's about giving them that confidence from the onset to enable them to beginning to have these conversations that are sometimes very sensitive and sometimes very difficult. So that's my work in terms of Nexus, but I am engaged in lots of other different things that actually, but all equality based, and it helps makes people who are voiceless have the confidence to have their voices heard, and absolutely help them to along the way to make a transition in whatever the way they want to make it. And so essentially I see myself as a everyday change maker. I see myself as a grassroots entrepreneur, and also one that's very inclusive in the thinking and in the direction of that one human race kind of ideal. And that's me. I don't know if that's enough, Jacqueline, but I just wanted to just give a roundabout description of what I do.
I think that's phenomenal. I noticed that you are also a positive role model for the People's Hub, which is quite an achievement. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, thank you. And the reason that came about was simply because, again, with the work that I do around equality, and it is the way I guess I tackle on equality is quite unprecedented, and sometimes people feel you're not lobbying because that's not the intention, but at the same time you're getting things done and you're getting people to engage, you're getting local authority leaders and so forth and so on to engage, to get that discussion on the table. How do you do it? It's all about changing hearts and minds. It's all about, you know, creating a space where everybody feels safe and everybody feels that no matter what they're saying is not stupid, or there's no
Oh, we've just lost you again. See if we get you back.
Yes, sorry about that.
Good. It's fine. That's good. That's good.
And so that's how I got involved in that, and I appreciated that, the fact that the accolade was given, because I just do me. I do the work that I do because of the lived experiences that I have had, and I didn't want anybody else to go through those things, because as a Black woman, I am not only a Black woman. I could be a lesbian Black woman. I could also be an older woman, older Black woman, and I could also be a disabled older lesbian Black woman. So the concept of intersectionality is really, really provident in the way that we, as much as I have a disability, don't put me in a box. That's not who I am. I have the ability to do more than my disability. And so it is in that context that I work and create that positive engagement and positive space.
Brilliant, thank you. I mean, I was really looking forward to hearing about the things that you do, because we first met on the misdiagnosis panel, which
That's
was
correct.
a very interesting panel looking at, again, intersectionality, and particularly women who had complex health conditions and had years of being misdiagnosed and the impact of that. So thank you so much. It's been really lovely to hear more detail about what you do, and I'm really pleased to have you within the network, and also your contribution going forward within the APPG. But one of the things I like about you is your quote, which is, it's really quite interesting, and I think something that we all perhaps aspire to. I love that you say success is liking yourself, liking what you do, and liking how you do it. And that's really important, particularly for people who are navigating complex health conditions as entrepreneurs. That's sometimes quite difficult to do. But on every occasion I've seen you and worked with you, you've absolutely that just kind of shines out from you. And I'm very, very pleased that we've had you on here today. Does anybody have any questions for Abba? Again, that's always a good sign, Abba. When nobody's got a question, you've done a really good explanation.
Yeah. Oh, thank you very much. And I will make
sorry, Abba. Yeah, we do have a question coming in from... Yes, hi, thank you.
Hi, it's Marce here, Ava. I don't have a question. I just thought it was very inspiring what you said. So I just thought it was very inspiring. So I just have to say it, that's all. Thank you for sharing this with us today.
Absolutely appreciate that, and thank you so much. Thank you so much. We all inspire each other in one way or another. The world doesn't know it, but we do.
I think, again, probably what I should have said as well is, what really impresses me is how collaborative you are.
Thank you.
And that's really important. So that, again, and you know, it's great working with you under those terms. Okay, right. So at this part of our session, our update from Aaron, our health and wellbeing guru.
Hey everybody, it's Aaron here from Horizon Health Network. Apologies for not being on the call with you yesterday. Unfortunately, some unforeseen meetings literally popped up 10 minutes before our own meeting that I had to have my attention due to the building work going on in my property. But you know, it's interesting that, you know, there are times when things do crop up, and I received a text message from one of my clients yesterday saying that she's had a very difficult week in her physical well-being with her diet and exercise, just due to some life circumstances that have been very painful for her, with the news of a loved one who's really going through a difficult time. But what I want to encourage you with is that not making light of situations that do come up, like the health of a loved one, or a meeting that takes you away from that which you love to do, is that they are just moments. There are moments in life, and So I want to encourage you not to allow the moment to keep you from carrying on, from keep you from living life, to keep you from the goals that you've set, be it in your health, in your physical well-being, and maybe in your mental, emotional well-being, maybe in your job, in your career, in finding finance, in your relationships, in your home life, whatever it is. I just want to encourage you that life has a lot of moments. They're not meant to stop you, but are meant for pauses or to build you, to carry on, to keep going. So I want to encourage you with that for this week. Keep on, and I do hope to see you all next Friday. All right. Thank you, everybody. I hope you're having a great weekend. Bye-bye.
I think possibly then, if we move on to our section, where we're just going to do an update on I think the next one is the virtual expo. So yes, we do have that confirmed date. Noreen's been working very hard behind the scenes on this, and I know we did ask people had any questions or any concerns about what this is going to actually look like. Unfortunately, we didn't get many. So I'm guessing that the explanation when we had our meeting was very thorough. But for those that weren't present at the meeting, what we will be doing throughout this really exciting is having the virtual marketplace, but also intermingling that with some panel discussion, opportunities for breakout rooms, for people to chat with prospective customers, collaborators, etc. But also people that just want to talk about the fact that we are working as inclusive entrepreneurs. But predominantly what this is about is, because we can't have what we would normally have at St. George's Hall, the expo, and all the wonderful things that we do around that, we really want to try to do this virtually. It's going to be really interesting how we do take this forward, combining that with some music sections as well and some other artistic sections throughout the expo. So anybody got any questions at this point on that? Yes, Sharon?
Oh no, I can't shut up,
Right,
can I? I take it this is going to be a registered event, so then we don't get any of those nasty, horrible people jumping
you
in.
did. You did. No, we won't. And what we are going to do, I've still got to get confirmation from Dr. Cameron yet. But what we'd like to do is actually run this as an APPG event as well. And that will actually bring other people in, and it will give, I don't think we need to be given credibility because we have it, but it will just take it to the next level. Now, in doing that, obviously that opens it beyond our network. So how we navigate that, we'll have to do that very carefully. But it will mean we can then put it out with the support. It will mean that we may then get MPs to speak, Dr. Cameron to speak, etc. So, but as soon as I have confirmation that that's okay, then we'll start to advertise it as such. Anyone else?
And sorry, I take it it's going to be an all-day event.
Well, yes, but not kind of 9 till 5, etc.
Yeah.
But probably the more we think about it, Noreen, correct me if I'm wrong on this, we were probably looking at it being maybe 4 hours across the day, not much longer than that. Yeah. So, and you know, because if you think about it, you have opportunities for people to open up their own meeting rooms, a panel discussion. Very quickly, you're going to need 4 hours to do that, but also people will be able to opt in and out of it throughout the day. We may do the 4 hours and have a break between, you know, like 2 hours, have a break where people can formally go, you know, have a chat room that's open or what have you. But actually to have 4 hours of actual interaction is what we're probably thinking is the maximum we could do. We've seen them for longer, and I mean, I went on one that was celebrating Nelson Mandela and Kofi Annan, and that went on for, I think it was something like, well, it was almost 24 hours. And it was an interesting way that they did it, but that was a long time. You know, what it did do was meant people around the world could log in at different times, but I don't think we need that necessarily at this stage. I don't know what everybody else's thoughts are on that.
No, I don't think we do. I was on one that was a 24-hour one, and it was selling items and things like that, and they had to block off the videos because they put the login on public domain on Twitter and that.
We won't be doing that. We'll be it will be very tastefully done, carefully coordinated, monitored, etc. It is absolutely your opportunity to shine, and we'll do that in every way possible. You know, we'll have members of the network that will be on the panels. We'll have members of the network available for one-to-one expert advice, etc. So again, it's really exciting, and we will be contacting you over the coming week to try to sort of make sure you're comfortable. Do you have, you know, we thought trying to standardize it some way in that everybody had a short clip that is shown at the start of the breakout rooms particularly, and that there are pre-selected and agreed questions, so that there's not sort of people coming in and there's a big gap, but equally people will be able to ask you questions. But very important that that pre-recorded clip we're going to do has all your contact details, you know, that we're fully showcasing what you do, whether you're selling, it's a service or whatever. How can people engage with you? All that kind of thing we need to make sure is in that clip. So we're going to work with you very closely on that. But again, you know, really exciting. See how it goes, and we're learning. And on that point, I didn't want to bring it up in the event thing. I'm having some conversation with James at the moment as well around whether we could actually pull together a gig, so to speak, a music gig going forward as well, which will mirror what we do at St George's Hall as well, with this side of the creative artist side of this as well. That won't be on the same day, but we are looking at that as well going forward, because the creative space has just been decimated, and I think we should do what we can to support it. Equally, lottery funding, Arts Council funding, all out there at the moment to do things like this. So, you know, if you want, we will be coming back to you to take part in that as well. But, you know, any ideas that you have as well, please put them forward. You know, this isn't something that we're going to do to you all. It's an interactive thing. So if you have any ideas as well, and we'll try to incorporate them. And for instance, people like Grant particularly, when we're doing the expo, will want to be not just part of it, but also to possibly, by that point, Grant, I don't know where you'll be with the academy and whether we can have some of the trainee journalists reporting on it or whatever. There's lots of opportunities in what we're going to be taking forward. Okay, all right, so no more questions on that? Sorry, Monzo, your question, please.
Sorry, I do have a question, Jacqueline.
Okay.
For this event, like the Inclusive Entrepreneur, are you, I have not seen the agenda, so apologies if you have covered this already, but as businesses develop, entrepreneurs they start hiring more staff. Is there a branch of this event to talk about recruiting inclusively? Is this part of it?
Yes, we will be looking at that. And interestingly, just going back to the APPG, one of our work program sessions, it will actually include recruitment, and also how the economy is grown by the employment or the self-employment of support workers as well, which is a really important part of what we do. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Sorry, Monzo, you had a question? As you know, Monzo is an emerging entrepreneur, and one of the things that he's looking for at the moment is people who would be prepared to take part when he trials his location. Oh, hi, great. Go on. Off you go, Monzo.
I wanted to ask, will you helping people set up their Zoom?
Yes, we will be contacting everybody and working with you to set up your room. Do you want me to carry on asking people about sampling your product?
We said next week.
Right, fine. Okay, all right. We'll that's something exciting for next week. Okay, all right. Thank you, Monzo. Okay, if nobody else has any questions, I think we're probably at our Q&A part. Again, this is your time. If you have any questions at all, if you feel, you know, that the way we're moving forward, if there's anything that we're missing, anything that particularly you might be struggling with at the moment, any questions about the business support, etc., health and well-being, this is your opportunity to raise it with me. Lady Sharon.
Oh no, sorry. You were talking about the grant by the 14th. Is that like, how do you prove? How do they want you to prove that you've had an interruption into your business?
I'm guessing they're going to look at income.
Right.
They're going to look at income. I would imagine they're also going to consider if they have given guidance that meant you couldn't trade fully. So, for instance, where they put restrictions on salons, particularly beauticians, you could do this, but you can't do that. So that's automatic business disruption. If you can evidence that prior to you had an income level of and you were still not getting it, those kind of things. As we've seen, as government have taken this forward, it's not always clear. And what will happen is people ask those questions again and they'll respond. But at the moment, it's down to you to evidence how you feel and then to see if that is successful.
Right, and I take it it's on, sorry, Jacqueline, go on.
I think it's online again.
Yeah.
But what's going to happen is people either get it, great, they don't get it, they'll create about it, and then government will respond to it, and that seems to be the way it goes. Luckily, the FSB have been the ones who've challenged all of this all the way through, so I think if it isn't meeting people's needs, then it will be raised. And again, this new APP that's been formed specifically by people who have not had the needs met by the measures the Chancellor's put in place. I think they're calling themselves oh gosh, I can't remember what they've called themselves. But basically, it's not the forgotten, it's something like that. And they have started an APPG, and they've got a heck of a lot of support, because there are a lot of people who've been left behind with this, who haven't been able to benefit from the measures that have been put into place. And you know, some of it is, to be fair, some of it's valid points. So for example, if you are a small business and you were registered for business rates, you got the grant. Now, there's a lot of small businesses who are registered, but they don't pay business rates, they're exempt. So some of the things that have been taken forward have not necessarily been as supportive for everybody. And this particular APPG is looking at all of that. So watch this space, because we're going to work quite closely with them, because obviously if there's something that they take forward and it will benefit us, then we'll pass that on.
Okay, thank you.
They may do an inquiry themselves, and then obviously we'll work with them to provide evidence to that inquiry. Because sadly for our sector, apart from the bounce back loans, there didn't seem to be a lot that was available. And you know, the bounce back loan does have interest to it, and it's you know, it's not a grant. And personally, I think we ought to have been entitled to a grant, but that's not the way it's gone. Okay, so much going on. There's so many. For me, when I look at our network now, you know, there's no doubt we've all struggled through the lockdown, and we're continuing to struggle. I'm really pleased that we are all still here together, and that we have been able to support each other through it, and we'll continue to address any of the issues that we're facing as best as we can. My hope in all of this, and I'm pretty confident that having the APPG is going to give us a real route to do that. And it's just now making sure that it's going to be hard work, a lot of hard work, but it's just making sure that we keep it to, as Sharon was saying earlier, focus on what we need to focus it on and not be drawn into other things. And just as we've done so far, that will, I think, not only change the narrative, but also bring better support going forward. All right, so any more questions before we wrap up today? No? Lovely. Well, it was great to see everyone again. Obviously, if there's any questions you didn't feel like you want to answer on the session, please do get in touch. And as you know, I'm just a phone call away. All right then. Thank you so much, everyone.